Welcome to day 2 in our summer look week of Webisodes. You know, here's where you're going to see many of the things very first at hand. And today we have
2 new embossing folders. These are great new embossing folders, but what's unique about them is some of the fun ways we're going to use them.
Exactly. So we invite you to come play with us. Well, here they are, as you said.
Ta-da. Diamond dots and flowers in frames. Very unique look for us, this flowers in frames.
Yes, I love that. I love the squares, in this case rectangles.
Right, and then an overall pattern.
Yes, and Lene is the one who requested this. By the way, we do keep lists of suggestions for any of our products, and then we kind of go off of those when we're designing.
Right.
And we're going to start with the diamond dots.
Diamonds and dots, highly useful embossing folder.
An all over pattern. Of course, there's a project. We'll be showing you that in just a moment. And as you may know, that all of our embossing folders are silk screened on the front. And that's just really a nice benefit because you can easily see what designs you're looking at, especially when you get lots of these.
Now, I remember at some point maybe they weren't silk screened a long time ago, or maybe there was just another product that isn't silk screened.
No, what happens is when you get ones to use before we get them, you get them not silk screened.
Well, I was just thinking if we used to do it and now we do it, it's a great feature because it's so much easier to find them.
It is. So we're going to start, and as you said, just a great background. And here's quite a perfect example of that benefit for it.
So you're using it as a background for your focals. I mean, in here you're really looking at the focals, which are the dazzles, backed with paper, very beautiful, but that nice soft background, and that's done with a pastel cardstock, which actually has a white core. So after you emboss that cardstock, all you have to do is take a sanding block and go over it a little bit. Oh, I think this one was used for something that had ink on it. So if I keep sanding, it's going to get rid of that. But there you see that white core. Doesn't really take much. Make sure that your sanding block, maybe clean it off on a piece of paper before you
or don't let anyone else use it.
But there's that white core, so it doesn't take very long to get.
Super simple, as you said. I also thought it was very clever to have a mat. Well, first there's the mat of the white cardstock, but then having this gingham that's been turned at an angle, and I think that just really kind of echoes the diamonds that are going on. So really pretty. Here's the one that was on the back of the package, and you can see that the back one, there's nothing done to it. It's just been simply embossed onto the pattern paper. And
because it's got that texture, there's just a little bit of a shadow, and that's why you can see it.
Now the one right there has been lightly inked. So.
Plus that's been cut into pieces, so you can use that for several different labels. So if I were to take this same piece that I sanded,
don't look at that side.
And if I'm going to use Stays-On ink, but really you can use any ink. I like using the stylus because it's nice and flat, and you can really apply the color just where you want it, and then just sort of lightly start going over. You don't want too much ink on this. You just want it to, it's going to lightly pop up those dots really quickly. And for the card it was done on white, but it's just an example of how quick you can get contrast.
It's kind of nice to see the two effects there. You can get white and you can get now the white is of course only if it's cardstock that has the white core.
That has the white core, or if you use one of our holographic papers, which also have a white core, or a silver in some of them.
And the other thing about this, so it's kind of fun to do the two techniques, the plain and then the inked. And as we back up a little bit, just want to show you what else was used on this particular card is the thank you stamp. That's a brand new stamp, so with warmest thanks has been used. And then our paper toll, we often talk about that there are extra pieces, extra art, and here's a way that those are used. So just wanted to point that out, that those little flowers and butterflies.
And they match the papers and that cardstock just perfectly, so that's just a perfect embellishment.
So it works nicely.
I love the black dazzles too along there. That's just
it does, doesn't
nice
it?
Bright little color there.
Nice contrast. Now you mentioned specialty paper. Let's look at the textured iridescent paper. And this is just gorgeous. And what's fun about that paper is exactly what you're seeing. It shimmers and it changes.
It does.
And just really, really fun.
And there's something unique going on here. If you can sort of, here, let me do
this.
If we do this and we get close to that, to right behind the heart, you can see where it's embossed here. It's not embossed where that heart is, and that heart, the black section we're looking at, has been colored in. But first, we used a diffuser with that paper and with the embossing folder to make sure that we had an area in the center that wasn't going to be embossed.
I was wondering how you were going to do that.
So this is, look at the gallery for the kit that contains several different heart diffusers. It's a Tim Holtz diffuser. And this is going to go not on top of the paper. First we're going to cut the paper. It's a 4 1/4 by 6 inches. Fits perfectly into our embossing folder. Then when you run this through your die cutting machine, and I've got that sitting here too that we're going to back out and show you in just a moment, you're going to place this on top of your embossing folder. Now what this does is wherever there is pressure, so the die cutting machine is going to push down on this. That's where you're going to get the texture of your embossing folder. In the center, where it's not applying any pressure, you won't get any embossing.
It gets diffused.
Right, it gets diffused, exactly. So here comes the machine in, and with this one, we have to make sure that we open these platforms all the way down to that one base.
Which says embossing.
Which says embossing, right. That's made for embossing folders. I am going to put a mat on the bottom, a cutting mat, but I am not going to put one on the top because the diffuser takes the place of that
other
top
platform.
Sandwich. That's right. So we'll just run this through. It pops up like so. Move the machine out of the way. And then when we remove the paper, you see...
It worked!
Yeah, it works. There's that heart in the center. Now, it's not defined as much as you would like as far as what you're going to use it for. Oh, by the way, it's a good idea to center that over this. I think that I sort of let it go astray a little bit. You want to make sure that you got that heart centered right in the center. And then Debbie used a pen from the Essentials set, which is actually the black pen, and she just went around, followed the outline of where it did get embossed to create that heart, and she just filled it in.
Oh, okay.
That gave you the shadow behind the heart that you're seeing.
And it's very effective, isn't it? Even though it doesn't match the shape of this particular heart, this is a Dazzles, it does do a good job. So that's interesting. And then just inking the top of it as you did before. Now you would want to use a StazOn ink pad because this is being worked on the textured iridescent papers.
Right, it's sort of a plasticized finish on top.
And what we have, this particular set, and by the way, this is limited time only, we have these smaller sheets, and they are perfectly sized to fit onto the card and to fit onto our embossing folder. So you get just a rich assortment there. And
really
as you
fun
can
colors.
see,
they're bright and colorful, and then used to back that dazzle too, which is just beautiful.
That's pretty amazing. So all of that, and the dazzles that were used, this is the Happy Hearts collection, and you can see why it's called that. So there is, well, actually, here's one that's been colored in, and there's one that's been backed with the iridescent, and then a different iridescent paper right there. So very fun
Another
look.
fun way of using it. I like the tiny little hearts just in some of the little diamond areas down at the bottom.
Very nice. And then on the inside, you make my heart happy. So that's using that same shape on the diffuser.
So I mean, technically you can use, let's see, let me grab the diffuser. Take your diffuser, go ahead and emboss a piece entirely, then put this over it and trace and cut out.
Right.
Okay.
And it's been matted on black and another of the Dazzle hearts. So really a stunning card, just really, really striking. Okay, we are going to go into our second
embossing folders, so flowers in frames, which it is one embossed piece. When you run it through, it's going to be one piece. But what's unique about them is that you can actually cut those apart afterwards really simply.
Oh, you mean like this?
Like this. And you notice we're using the diamond dots in the back.
Right behind it. So that's been sanded again. And then this one has been, well, you're going to show us,
It's been sanded as well.
Okay.
It's actually using more of the pastel cardstock. It has that white core. And you start by sanding that piece, and then you can just cut it out. Now, you can cut it out very straight, but I kind of noticed that they actually followed the design of that. It sort of looks like it's torn.
Right.
So you can do that. Another idea that I had is, why not just tear it? Because that'll really give you that white look. I mean, you do have to be kind of careful that you don't go into the design, but that's a neat look.
That's going to do the same thing, yeah. So beautifully done. And of course, one swipe through the embossing folder, you get 4 of them, so you can get ready to do all the different words.
On the front and on the inside, you can use it.
And this is the Prima Wildflowers with a piece of the cardstock that's been torn, just going into the center of them. Speaking of tearing.
I like that look because you get that nice little white edge. That's a sweet look.
And we'll back up so you can see the whole thing. And this is on Mystic Garden Papers. Just really pretty. And on the inside, another one with a strip of the dots.
And I like matting it on black because that really makes the edges pop. So
I also like the front being so covered and then the inside a little more minimalistic where it's not as covered. It's just a nice contrast.
And something that you don't get with all of our embossing folders, these actually have more than one word on there because each block has a word. You can put the love block on the inside, you can put smile on the front, you can choose which block you want to use.
And here is an example of all 4 of them used together, and isn't this just beautiful? Let's get in closer and you can see. Okay, so this was embossed on the silver linen, and this will be changing in design slightly, but we have kind of sequestered all of them for this webisode so that you can get the original silver linen.
And I've seen the new version of the silver linen, and I really think you're going to love it. We all like it. So
well, good. So we are holding these for you. So that was first embossed, and then what happens?
Well, you have the embossing, which is here. Very difficult to see, so you really want that to stand out. There's a couple of different things you can do. You can use ink, like we did on the other one. You can just ink it, but this one was embossed. So then you're just going to swipe it with a Versamark, sprinkle embossing powder on it, shake it off, and then heat emboss it. That's all that was done. Although I have to say, I would definitely use a perfect pouch with this.
Oh, to do that first?
Yeah. Do you want to grab the perfect pouch and show them, or do they know what it is?
I think it's always good to show it. So here is the perfect printing pouch.
And what's going to happen is I would definitely use that first. In fact, I would it has chalk in there.
Has something in there.
It's going to cut down on static. It's going to make it so the embossing powder doesn't go where you don't want it to go. So if you do that before you swipe it with Versamark. Now the Versamark is going to sit on top of those images. I want to make sure it's not. I'm just going to do it a little bit. If you swipe it on top like so, you actually sort of see the shiny areas versus those chalked areas. That's where the Versamark is going to sit on top. And that's why I would do that, because once you put that embossing powder on there, it's staticky because of this specialty paper, and it sort of tends to stick to everything. So this will keep it from sticking in the background.
And then you just do the superfine black embossing powder.
Then you're going to heat emboss with a heat gun, and then have fun coloring in with Spectrum Noir pens, the Bright set.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so there you go. And I think this is a nice example. Sometimes when you're coloring, there's a tendency to think, I've got to cover every little bit of it. And you don't. And it's especially fun when you're using a specialty paper like the silver linen on the back.
Let it shine through a little bit.
So love, live, smile, and believe. And then on the inside, this has been done just on cardstock and just inking it. So very different look. I think that's beautiful. I really love it.
It's beautiful.
And this is so fun. A really different look.
It is a different look, and it's done with cardstock, black cardstock, and the specialty paper is the glimmer paper.
It's the glimmer paper, right?
Color of it.
I would imagine it's
emerald. Emerald green.
Yes.
And it's just it's kind of a fun look, but it's also combined with Inca Gold. So I've got the Inca Gold here, and that's what you're seeing sitting on top of there. And Well, before I show you the Inca Gold, I want to show you what you're seeing down
Yes.
here. You're going to emboss this piece. You're going to add a little Inca Gold, which I will show you. Then glue that on the front of a card that you created from black cardstock.
Right.
Once that's on there, tear an edge. And I very, specifically made sure that I tore all the way down here because I knew I was going to do a black one on the inside, and I wanted the word believe to show.
That is just so stunning.
And then when you open it, oh, that's gorgeous. So that's a card front right there.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of a peek into what you're going to see, which so much more gold here. So on the front, I only use the Inca Gold a little bit on the words, a little bit on the flowers, and that's it.
You're going to show that?
I am going to show that. So here's the Inca Gold. And what we've all talked about and discovered is that you don't want to put your fingers into the Inca Gold.
Because they're contaminated.
Because it'll contaminate. So we're going to take just a little bit of it out.
Nothing personal, by the way.
Like so. And I do make sure that I close that right away because they can dry quickly if you don't keep them nice and tightly closed.
Kind of like ink pads.
And then I used my finger. Let me get this turned the right way.
Right.
I just used my finger because I wanted to stay on top.
And you wanted to be pretty specific about where you place the Inca Gold.
Well, I have the black, but on the green, that's right. I only went on the words, and so there you see that word pops, and then I went on the center of the flowers. So that was all I did for the green. I did those on each element that I wanted seen. But once I got to the inside, I did it on everything, the whole thing.
Went all over.
Yep. And it just pops up, and a little bit gets into the back, but I think it stays so much on top that you don't really notice it as much. So
yeah, I think you're right.
Beautiful.
There it is in all its golden glory. And I think having those jewel border dazzles just really accents the gold perfectly, and of course the jewel dazzles on the center of the flowers is just really pretty. They're kind of flower paisley design.
They kind of are.
So really striking.
I kind of think it would be interesting to use some different specialty papers on the front to see a different, or maybe even do it in white on the front.
I do like the little bit of gold on the front. I think that allows the inside to really pop with more gold, so just striking. Now here is a trio of 3 of them, and simply done with white cardstock and then
distress ink.
Okay.
Just let's see, using a stylus, and I would probably use something like this, and going across it. You can also use it straight from the ink pad.
Yes.
You can do that directly. And what I would do is let's see, let me grab the embossing folder. When you run that white cardstock through, it's going to look like this. So one whole piece like that, then cut it into 4 quadrants. And I'd probably ink it first, let me say that, then cut it into those 4 quadrants, and there you can mat them on black. And that's a black suede that it was matted on, because black suede just really pops. That black is even darker than cardstock. So that's just a nice look for that. One long strip of black suede.
And then on the inside, because there were 4, we see that there is 1 right there.
It's
so
strategic.
A little bit of room to write a message. I also love just this whole look. The sheer ribbon at the top and going around the card, you can see that it actually does go all the way around.
So you can see it on the inside
too. Just really that the 2 colors, the red and the white, and just a highlight of black.
For some reason this reminds me of that old 40s look with that ribbon up in the woman's hair all tied up right in the front. I don't know why.
That's where you go. Okay. So, and then our last card, we're going to again put these 2 embossing folders together, back again with the smaller pieces of the textured iridescent paper in the background, and then a piece on the front that's just been into white cardstock. Little bit of coloring.
It's kind of hard to recognize that it's white cardstock, but it's uniquely colored in with the new Spectrum Noir Sparkle Glitter Brush Pens.
Oh, okay.
And it looks so much deeper than that. It looks thick, like an emboss or a glass window almost. I just think that's or cloisonné.
Would you bring in one of those brushes just so we can see?
Sure. In fact, I'll bring in all of them.
Okay.
There were 2 sets used here. This one was I don't remember the name of, but it was it's in the gallery, and the other one is Shades of Spring. So Shades of Spring and Glitz and Glamour, that's this one. And these are just gorgeous. You're going to shake them up before you use them. When you open it up, it's got this very fine nylon brush at the end. Now that's made up, here I'm going to back up a little bit so we can try to focus.
Yeah.
There we go. It's made up of long threads of nylon. They all go into this nice point that work, you know, perfectly for this. And I've got the piece that's been embossed and it's been inked, and I allowed the ink to go into the background as well a little bit.
Okay.
And then you're just going to start coloring in, and it's filled with this beautiful sparkle finish, so that when you're coloring, when you're finished coloring, I'm going to just make sure that I color this entire, I see how fine it is, how you can really control, it gives you a lot of control. Then when I pick it up, you can see how much sparkle it is. It just sort of sits on top of the paper.
And as it dries, I think it almost gets more sparkly.
It does, like it raises to the surface more.
So again, as you said, you can really see the depth of the embossing folder. And the background one has, I don't think it has any inking or anything on it.
Nothing on it. It's just that textured iridescent paper. And
then we're using the silver linen in the back, so you get all of them. I also like the ribbon going there.
Isn't that great?
Very, very sweet.
It looks like it's wrapped all the way around, but
does.
you can actually cut it off at the top and the bottom, use a glue stick to keep it in place.
And then the inside offsetting from the textured iridescent.
So just a little accent in one of those frames. So you know you have 2 of those frames left when you're done with this card.
Yeah, very, very pretty. Very striking.
Hey, those would be great on little gift cards too if you cut them apart.
They would. So we have, as we said, 2 embossing folders, diamond dots and flowers and frames, and lots of ways to use them, which is what we love.
Yes.
And please join us tomorrow. We're going to have some special brand new things, and we'll see you then.
Okay.